Welcome to the Alcohol Free Life podcast, brought to you by thesoberclub.com. I'm Janie Lee Grace. This is for you if you've quit the booze or you'd like to, or maybe you're just sober curious. I'll bring you tips and motivation without any judgment, and there'll be inspiration from experts, quit-lit authors, and sober heroes. Hi and welcome to the podcast. I hope you've had a good week and everything's going good for you, whatever it is you're up to at the moment. Feels like spring just might be in the air, doesn't it? Thank God. I just want to lead with reminding you that Wednesday, 1st of April, is the fantastic Catherine Gray in conversation with me for the Alcohol Free Life podcast live, in front of a live audience anyway. It's at Hello Love in Bloomsbury in London. So it's Wednesday, 1st of April, 6:30 to 8:30. And we are being supported by Naughty. So you'll get a glass of Naughty as well. It would be so lovely to meet some podcast listeners. And I'm hoping some of the coaches that I've trained will be there, some Sober Club members. It's a very small crowd. So do get in quick, grab your tickets. And if you're nervous about coming, I've already had a couple of people saying, I'm thinking about it, but I just feel really nervous about coming on my own. Honestly, don't. It'll be fine. I promise you we'll welcome you and you will feel as though you're among like-minded people. So if you go to thesoberclub.com and click on events, you'll see the link for that there. Grab your ticket as soon as you can. It's perfect to bring, curious friends. It's absolutely non-judgmental, you know that Catherine Gray is just wonderful. She, us guys can chat for England. She's just so great. Obviously, we'll be talking about her new book, Little Addictions, but of course, we're going to touch on the unexpected joy of being sober as well. And on that note, I don't know if you saw the Substack post that I wrote last week. It was actually, I think, just after the podcast had gone live. Otherwise, I would have probably had my rant then. But it was in response to an article in the Telegraph. It was behind a paywall, sort of craftily. But anyway, it still got loads of publicity. Dr. Simon Feldhaus, I think I've got that name right, wrote a piece. The headline was why as a doctor I will never give up alcohol. It was something like that, the headline. And honestly, I couldn't believe this post. Wrong doesn't even begin to cover it. His thesis is that he acquiesces that there are no safe limits. He actually says, World Health Organization science proves that alcohol is a toxin, and so he sort of doffs his cap, if you like, to that known fact. And then goes on to basically say, depending on your genetic makeup will depend on how well you tolerate alcohol, and words to the effect of, in fact, I think he actually said, I haven't got the article in front of me now, although it's imprinted on my memory, but he actually said, what is the point of a long life without wine? Seriously, this is a doctor of longevity, no less. What is the point of a long life without wine, was his question. And in my response, I wrote, what is the point of a long life when you are addicted to an addictive substance? You're suffering from hangovers. You're feeling like absolute shit. I probably didn't write that bit, but you know what I mean. You cannot begin to actually like yourself or feel authentic. You're not quite sure who you texted the night before or what the hell you said. You're bloated. You're feeling just listless, absolutely lacking in any kind of clarity. Wouldn't be able to drive your kids to A&E if you needed to in the middle of the night on account you've overdrank, and on and on and on and on. What a ridiculous thing to say, seriously. And then the absolute corker was his line that was, and again, don't quote me, I haven't got it in front of me, but it was something like, abstinence is the opposite of joy. You cannot be more wrong. It's like these people who say sober equals bores, anagram, absolute BS. Most of us have not known what joy actually means. It's an interesting word, isn't it? It's a word that's often not used other than in church circles, but I had not used the word joy for myself since I was a kid until I quit alcohol. I didn't know what the word joy meant, because for me, it kind of links to contentment. Joy it's not about being, super ecstatically happy. I don't think. I think it's something else. I think it's linked to a kind of a sense of contentment. And I don't think you can even begin to have that until you've quit the booze. And for so many people, that is when we can start to experience joy in our lives. We can see the beauty in little things. We can actually count blessings and recognize that everyday life can feel joyful, not that awful kind of pressure to have bigger, better, faster, more, which is how you are when you're drinking. God, it really got to me, that article. I was so incensed because I just thought, again, it's one of those articles that if I'd have read it 9 years ago, I'd have thought, well, there you go. You see, everything I'm doing is completely okay. It's absolutely normal to be drinking a best part of a bottle of wine every bloody night and feeling, only a bit of my potential is possible. That article would have kept me stuck. Again, absolute nonsense. It's literally, honestly, the more I think about it, the more I think it's so irresponsible. I wish I could get him on the podcast. What I wish is that, if you're listening, Dr. Simon Feldhouse, which I'm guessing you're not, but what I wish is that he would come to the conversation that I'm going to be having with Catherine Gray on Wednesday, the 1st of April. If anyone knows him, please invite him. He can come as my guest because I'd love to hear him. I'd love to see him listen to us. And not just Catherine and I, but a room full of people, literally beaming with the unexpected joy of being sober. That title of Catherine's, it says it all, doesn't it? No, we weren't expecting it, probably. We were probably expecting life without booze to be tricky. But once you're over that hard bit, oh my God, abstinence equals joy. It is not the opposite of joy. It equals joy. Literally, being sober makes you brave. It makes you kind. It gives you clarity. It gives you a sense of peace and authenticity. You can actually start to begin to like yourself. If love yourself is too strong a word, if, self-care feels a bit too woo-woo, call it self-esteem, call it a sense of self-worth. You can call it what you like, but most of us are lacking in it, especially when we're drinking. And why would we need an addictive substance to be able to have fun, to be able to feel a sense of joy? Doesn't make any sense. So anyway, there's my little rant. Go search it out. I wrote a piece on Substack. It'd be great, actually, if you could have a look at it and maybe comment, say something in my defense. So anyways, there's my little Substack piece and my little rant for this week. So my guest this week is Julian Tittershill, who's written a fantastic book and has also entered his book into the Platinum Awards. There is a category in the awards for well-being books, well-being authors, and Julian enters. So I've had a chance to look at his book, and I thought, let's get him on and share his story. We need more guys talking about this stuff, don't we? Also, check out one of my coaches. One of the coaches I trained, Tony, has got a men's event coming up soon online as well. Have you quit the booze, loving sobriety, but feeling unfulfilled in the work that you do? Have you been wondering about stepping into a rewarding career, helping the growing number of sober curious people to create a life they don't need to escape from? Join us for a free webinar where you can discover your purpose and find out more about what it means to be an accredited sober coach. Imagine yourself working from anywhere in the world that you choose within 8 weeks of starting this program. Go to thesoberclub.com/events. My guest is Julian Tittershill, and I've got in front of me the great book, Booze, a raw, honest story of the highs and lows of alcohol use and a strategy to break free. Julian, thanks so much for joining us.
Absolute pleasure. Thanks, Janie.
Yeah, so take me back. Tell me a bit about your, the backstory, as it were. What was going on for you way back when?
Well, way back when was 12 years old when I had my first entry into the medicine cabinet or the liquor cabinet on a New Year's Eve when we were left alone, and it kind of spiraled from there. And I think from 12, 13, 14 all the way to 30, I absolutely dived into the booze and embraced it. It was my partner in crime. I walked hand in hand with it. I never looked back right the way through my teens, through uni, post uni. And it was only around 30 that things started to really flip. and the downs outweighed the ups. But it was an awful long time after that that I thought to do anything about it.
Mm,
Because I have to say that in the early years there wasn't a downside. You know, hangovers weren't really a thing, and
mm.
it empowered me. It created friends, birds of a feather flock together. I didn't look back, and in the background, the kind of dark recesses were the fact that I was creating a lifetime addiction without realizing it.
But it's
With
what everyone does, isn't it? It's, you know, it's all completely normal, allegedly, and literally it's the rite of passage. I mean, 12 is quite young, but even so, it's the done thing, isn't it? It's the rite of passage. You get to a certain age, that's what you do.
I'm not
Um,
sure. I'm not sure I was regularly drinking at 12, but it was certainly my first drink. But
yeah.
my dad's best friend was the old English cider rep, so there was a constant supply of cider in the kitchen cupboard. But you're
Wow.
right, in the 70s and early 80s, you know, the darts players were drinking at the hockey, snooker players had a pint, and Formula One was all about the champagne
Yeah.
and James Hunt, etc. Not to
Yeah.
mention James Bond with his martini all the way.
Exactly. Yeah, it was glamorized, wasn't it? I was talking to somebody just a little while ago about when the sort of marketing the alcohol marketing, as it were, big alcohol first started marketing to women. And I think that was around the 70s because I don't think my mum would the first time I remember my mum having a drink was when she had a baby shower. And that was kind of
But
the entry for women, wasn't it? Do you remember? When they kind of they started marketing baby shower. Oh, how delicate! This lovely glass and a little cherry in it, you know. But you know they're not daft. It's like, oh, how can we? You know, we need to get away from the cider and the pints of beer. So let's have something that's going to be glamorous for women. Yeah, absolutely insidious, incredible. So, when did you know what happened when you finally started to realize? Oh, hold on a minute, things are not going so well here.
Well, I think the first day I looked back over my shoulder was my 30th birthday when I got on the scales, landmark birthday, and I was 16 stone. Now I'm 6 foot tall. 16 stone isn't, oh my goodness, that's incredibly heavy. But it did make me think the weight's starting to pile on.
Mm,
And the hangover started creeping in. And it's almost as if it was all 95% positive before it started to become 80% positive. Then I'm 35 and it's 70%. And hangovers are really starting to kick in. The weight's starting to really creep up. And then I'm into my 40s and the drinking is exactly the same, but I'm feeling worse and worse. I'm getting heavier and heavier. And then towards my mid to late 40s, the actual physical consequences started to creep in. I mean, I'm very happy to get into them, but for example, not just weight gain, but I had an incident of atrial fibrillation, polycythemia, just this kind of creeping cardiovascular warning signs, you know,
mm.
time bomb type of stuff. But still, I didn't stop.
Well,
Uh,
did the issue of alcohol get raised? Was it were you attributing any of this to alcohol, or what did you not make the connection?
so I certainly made the connection with weight gain. Um, and it's only through reading literature since Alcohol Explained, great book, that I understand why weight
Mm,
gain is so intrinsically linked to alcohol. I remember my cardiologist and my hematologist both saying to me, "You are the stereotypical middle-aged drinker. I
mm.
see you 10 times a week in my clinic, and
Yeah.
you never ever listen." Now,
Mm,
polycythemia is a hematological condition which thickens the blood, and you'll know all the risks that come with that, stroke, etc.
yeah.
And that condition is massively exacerbated by ethanol, which we know
Yeah.
is found in alcohol. And I was told this, and it really didn't make much difference because I did the exercise, I did the diet, but the one thing I fastidiously ignored was
Mm,
changing my relationship with alcohol because it was my permanent accessory, party time necessity. It was with me hand in hand, and it was the one thing I refused to change, even with these beginning diagnoses of the car crash that was to come.
mm. Were you given the advice that you should quit then? Because if you were, that's quite surprising. Because with most people I speak to, most clients I work with, they'll tell me that they kind of rock up to GPs. Certainly, women will rock up to GPs with all kinds of issues, and they'll be given antidepressants or HRT or whatever it is, but they will not be asked about their drinking typically. And then, from my own experience, when I actually spoke to the GP and was brave enough to say that I thought I was drinking too much, I went for something else. But when I was brave enough to mention that actually, I'm a little bit worried about my drinking. The only advice was, well, just cut down,
Yeah.
have an alcohol-free day. They rarely go as far as to say, you need to quit.
So the cardiologist was, drink less. The hematologist was categorically, you need to stop
Really?
because, well, there's no cure for polycythemia. The only treatment is quarterly venesections. And venesections is quite simply bloodletting. A venesection is an enormous needle. They reduce the volume of your blood, which reduces the red blood cells. So there's no oral medication, there's no cure. And
Mm,
he said that every alcohol is quite simply making this worse. You
mm,
have to stop or your risk will continue to increase.
mm. And
Um,
yet that didn't land with you.
so it did in that I stopped completely for about 6 or 7 weeks. I
Right.
remember walking out of the hospital and thinking, right, this is it. It's time to stop. And I white knuckled it. I willpower. I've stopped. I did it for 7 weeks. I was utterly miserable. I was missing out. All my friends were still drinking. All my friends, we collective of drinkers. If they can do it, why can't I?
Mm,
Utterly miserable and moped around for 7 weeks, and then thought, right, I've done it. I've broken the spell of alcohol. I can now moderate. I
mm,
can now have one or two. And I
mm.
think I managed to moderate for about 2 days, and then
Yeah, sounds about
following,
right.
yeah, because willpower is it's like a muscle. It gets tired. There was no change in my kind of psychology towards
No,
alcohol.
exactly.
It
Yeah,
was
that's such a
there.
that's such a good
Yeah,
description of what happens, isn't it? It happens to so many people, we just think, "Oh, I've got this now,"
yeah.
and if you haven't been spending that time focusing on what you're gaining and focusing on how much life is going to be without it, then of course you're just going to be counting the days and white knuckling it and wanting to go back.
And
Yeah, you
nobody
described
had
that
told me that
really
life could
well.
be better without it.
No, I know. It's not
Um,
spoken about enough, is it?
no, and I think I was diagnosed in the August. I stopped until early October, and then by Christmas I was right back to square. I think I lost a stone in 7 weeks. So profound was the difference, but it didn't matter. And by Christmas I was right back to square one again. Big red face, 19 stone, and back to that ticking time bomb.
Right. So what happened the next time?
So the next time was only 5 months later, and I was doom scrolling. I slept terribly whilst drinking, and every evening I'd go to bed, and when I kind of closed my eyes, it would be the dark shadows of half a lifetime smoking, still drinking. When is that time bomb going to go off? So I'd spend that hour and a half on my phone, flicking through just before bed, and just taking my mind off the inevitable night that was to come, where I'd spend at least 2 hours a night awake, riddled with anxiety. And I
Yeah.
found a company, something called My Eye on Facebook, 92% success rates, 95% sleep better. And I just thought, too good to be true. I'd probably had half a bottle of wine at least. And I thought, let's just do it. And it was a company called 1 Year No Beer. Plenty of companies out there. And I signed up for 90 days to this program, whatever it was, and then fell into my usual unconscious state. Probably woke up at 2 a.m. for a couple of hours and then had a couple more hours before getting up at 6. And then the next day I dived into the program, and it's exactly what you just alluded to. It's not about willpower. It's not about white knuckling and just avoiding. It's about celebrating how an alcohol-free life can just be so filled with sunshine and how you can achieve so much. And
Yeah.
it was just a completely different way of thinking. There's a lot of people use this method via various companies or just by waking up to see the light. That when drinking, my life was on repeat.
Yeah.
Every time I went to the pub, it was the same. Same pub, same friends, same 6, 7 pints, same hangover on repeat.
Mm.
Couple of pints on a weekday, some wine, it was all the same. And
Mm.
the things, it's going to be 5 years in June.
Right.
My life has changed. I mean, the health benefits I could bore you to tears. I could go on and on and on every facet.
It is amazing. I mean, in the sober club community that I run, I just see it all the time. People will just say, "Oh my God, I can't believe this has happened, and I've done this, and I've stepped out of my comfort zone, and I'm feeling this joy, and this is better, and that's better." And you're right. If we could kind of bottle all of these benefits, we'd be very rich, wouldn't we?
And prove it, absolutely guarantee it to anyone who's
Yeah.
drinking that there is a life.
Yeah.
And all actually it's important that I've probably been daily drinking since I was 16, 17. Maybe the odd day when I hadn't had a drink, maybe I was ill.
Yeah.
But when you suddenly find yourself sober at the age of 48, having been drinking for 30 odd years, you've got to find out who you are because,
Well, that's it. Yeah, I was going to say, one of the things you talk about in the book is identity, and it's something that I bang on about a lot because you're absolutely right. You do have to come back to who you are. The really great thing is that I've never met anyone who prefers himself drunk.
no, I'd say
How was that experience for you, sort of having to, literally, I suppose it's quite raw, it's quite emotional, and you're literally discovering who you are as a person, aren't you, again?
well, raw was the word I was going to use because I'd say, discovering who you are as a person again, it was actually the first time as an adult, you
Well,
know,
true. Yeah.
that I'd been, I wasn't by any means drunk every day, but, I was never a morning or a daytime drinker except on a Saturday if there was any option to go to the pub sharpish. But most of my downtime, I'd have a drink in my hand in the evenings. And it was the time, the space. What on earth? When you've got a drink in your hand, you're happy to watch reality TV. Made in Chelsea, Big Brother, whatever it's in. You don't really have an opinion on what's on the telly, but when you're sober, by goodness, you need to find things to fill your time. You need to find excitement. You need to find life beyond
Yeah.
alcohol. And for 3 months, it was jigsaws because
Mm.
that was just the thing. I never thought I'd do another jigsaw, but I gravitated towards jigsaws.
Yeah.
Then I had my model aircraft phase. Then I had a bit of a childhood Star Wars revisited phase.
Great.
And I really had to sit myself down and think to myself, you need a hobby. You need to find something that replaces that go-to of I'm bored, I'm going to the pub, or I'm
Yeah,
bored, I'm going to the
exactly.
fridge or the cupboard.
It's looking for that little thing that's going to give you a little bit of a dopamine hit for a while,
Yeah,
isn't it? Be a
yeah.
distraction, also something you enjoy. I'm sure you found, though, Julian, as I have, that over time, the desperation for the fix gets so much less. You're able to sort of feel so much more balanced without the thing all the while. For me, it just always used to be, oh my God, well, I need to be doing this or that, and it needs to be bigger, better, faster, more. I'm so much calmer now. I don't have to constantly reach for something.
I was always planning. I'd find myself at 4 o'clock thinking, I can't wait to be able to get to go to bed because I was wishing my days away
Yeah.
because I was always so tired, or it's just let's get through this evening with a couple of beers,
Yeah.
and and now there's breathing space,
Yeah.
and I can slow down, and I can look and do some gardening, and I can find a million other things to do that even just being able to drive, you
Oh God, I know. Isn't it
know,
amazing freedom that
I can go,
you can drive at any time? I know, God,
I
that's the
can.
definition of freedom, isn't it?
And money, I've no excuse not to be able to do stuff because I can't afford it because
Yeah.
drinking 80 odd units a week cost me a fortune.
Yeah.
And now that money has come back, and what I did was I saved it for a couple of years.
Good,
And
good.
I went up in a Spitfire last autumn.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. I always say to people, get a jar or a vase or something and put
Yeah.
cash in it. You can actually physically see it mounting up, and then you can repurpose it on something that's actually properly good for you. That's brilliant. I love it.
I'll hastily add it was a two-seater Spitfire. I wasn't in it, but that was a 30-minute experience of a lifetime
Never
that
forget
I'll never
that.
forget, which would
Yeah, no.
never ever have happened.
Well, I
If,
was going to ask you, when you went sober, when you finally did step into this new identity, as it were, how was it for you with family and friends? Was that piece difficult? Because I've had clients who will sometimes tell me that that's their biggest fear of actually quitting alcohol is literally how are they going to associate with friends? How are they going to be around family and friends? Was it difficult for you?
so unknowing to me at the time, employed some rules, that I kind of was implementing at the time. And when I tried to cut down on my drinking before, it was for my wife or it was for my kids because daddy was drinking too much. But I only really stopped when I did it selfishly for me. So
Exactly.
the first kind of thing that I decided was I was going to be selfish. Nothing else matters apart from my sobriety, excluding all others. Really pertinent in the first 2 to 3 to 4, 5 weeks, and me doing what I needed to do to stay alcohol free,
Mm.
even if it meant going off to bed and sulking,
Yeah,
if I was in a vile mood for whatever, because for me, I've never missed, after the first week, I've never had a physical craving for alcohol.
yeah,
It's always been the habitual, it's just what we do. It's
yeah,
Friday night. So my first Friday, I imagine, was horrendous because I should have been in the pub, is what my brain told me. But I fundamentally believe that by being selfish and doing what I needed to do to stay sober, my true friends and family would thank me in the long term. And that's
yeah.
absolutely true for my family.
Mm,
They see a much better father, a far better husband.
mm.
Friends, absolute variable. I've not lost a single friend, but I simply don't see them in the same environment because
Mm.
they are in the pub. I can go to the pub, it doesn't stress me out, but I get bored very quickly. Why do people go to the pub to drink?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I know. I mean, the whole sober equals bores. The opposite is true. It's the drunk
Yeah.
people who are boring. It's hanging around people who are drunk that's really boring. But that's interesting you say that, and I think it's often the case that people really get worried and nervous about this thing with friendships. But actually, what typically happens is that I've found is that the people that are your real friends, they'll kind of just come along with you. That doesn't mean they'll necessarily stop drinking, but they'll kind of come along with you. And maybe if it's your birthday, they will buy you a alcohol-free beer or whatever it is. They'll
Yeah.
come along with you for the ride, as it were. And the ones that aren't will just naturally fall away. You
Yeah.
won't have to have a big old argument or a scene. You just kind of won't see them. And that's all right. And I know it can be really hard, but sometimes we have to recognize that sometimes, some people are just drinking buddies. And actually, that was really all we had in common. And the beauty of this life is that we get to meet so many more people who, share the same path, which is amazing, isn't it?
Well, I was going to say two things. Number one, we shouldn't put other people's opinions ahead of our sobriety ever.
Exactly. Exactly.
There's been a couple of hardcore that I don't see that much, but exactly as you just described, many of my close friends, I speak to them all the time. We do
Mm.
dog walking, we do golf. I hate golf, but I will play. And yeah, new friends. I don't think I'd made a new friend in 20 years because I was in
Yeah.
a drinking circle. They're all ex-uni friends. And I now could count 4 or 5 absolutely new friends that I did not know. My running partner, I have a partner that I go running with. It's
Yeah.
crappies.
Brilliant.
My mate from the gym. The person I was playing paddle. Paddle's the latest thing. What's that
Oh,
about?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. What is that about? That would
Yeah.
not be me.
Well, it's my knees have a combined age of over 100, so maybe not for me. The latest thing I'm trying.
Yeah, exactly. Well, people just discover all kinds of amazing things, don't they, when they quit alcohol? Because being sober makes you brave. That's one of the really lovely things that I really do believe that's true. So what about the health issues? Where are you at with the health issues?
So it's almost, I mean, so cardio, so 19 stone to 14 stone. Now,
Amazing.
weight was always the biggie for me because I had to look at myself in the mirror every day, and you just feel I've always been bigger, and then I got proper, 19 stone. That's big, 120 kilos, something like that. I'm now 14 stone, 90 kilos, and that kind of ticks so many health boxes. But I know a lot of people worry about weight. I didn't change anything else, not my diet. I don't, I do, yes, of course, I exercise more because I don't have a hangover every morning. But
Mm.
the simple thing of stopping drinking, I reduced my weight by 5 stone or 20 odd kilos.
Amazing.
Cardiovascular, blood pressure's through the floor. My pulse is 52, which is just obscene. It's almost too low. It's wonderful. But the one that really kind of, let's not say shocked medical science, but it was a profound moment. Polycythemia is not a kind of symptomatic condition. You have it or you don't. It's problem with the bone marrow that overproliferates red blood cells, and as the hematologist has said, it's exacerbated by alcohol.
Yeah. Yeah.
But since I stopped drinking, it's gone away,
Wow.
and it's measured by the percentage of red blood cells in your blood.
Mm.
Normal is 40 to 50%. I was 50+%, and now I'm back in the normal zone. And again, I no longer have venesections, haven't for 4 years. And
Amazing.
consultants like, well, just by stopping alcohol, I no longer have polycythemia, even though I'm kind
Isn't
of
that incredible? I mean, you're not poisoning yourself anymore, are you,
no.
for God's sake? That is
Um, but
fantastic.
it would be so remiss of me to miss the really important benefit, which is mental health.
Yeah,
Because the physical didn't stop me. It was the mental that I got to my absolute wit's end of a life on repeat, hangovers, anxiety, loss of sleep. And my Fitbit went in the bin on New Year's Day because the amount of steps I was doing was getting ridiculous. I needed to stop obsessing with steps. I was at 25,000 a day, and that was enough. So I'd had 3 years of that, but my Fitbit told me I was getting 8.5 hours sleep a night, which was just a dream come true. And with sleep comes even better mental health. The anxiety has gone. I'm never awake, for a couple of hours a night, and just confidence and ability to be me. And
yeah.
it's easy to jump to the physical because they're easily recorded in numbers,
Quantifiable. Yeah, absolutely.
be it
But
liver enzymes or
yeah,
cholesterol or blood pressure.
yeah,
But mental health is
yeah.
is off the scale.
You're right, and it's so often not talked about. The link between alcohol and anxiety is just so not talked about enough.
No.
It's incredible the amount of people who just, I mean, someone else in your position with those health issues and the mental health issues, the anxiety, all the rest of it. If you hadn't have quit alcohol, you'd just be on yet more medication by now. And God knows what stage you'd be at. It's frightening. It's really frightening.
Yeah, another 5 years of that, I might not be here. And I've got a 16-year-old little monster, and I've got a 19-year-old just gone to uni.
Yeah,
My wife's, how old is she? 50. She's just become a black belt at kickboxing.
amazing.
So she's fit and healthy, and
Yeah,
I need to be part of that, not
totally.
gently drinking myself away.
Exactly. Well, it's great. I'm so glad you're talking about it, Julian. It's brilliant and well done on the book. You'll have to. One of the sober coaches I train, Tony, does a sober guys talking webinar. You have to sign up to that. I'm sure he'd love to have you chat there because I think getting more guys talking about this is really important as well because it still is quite a lot of women who talk about this stuff, and there are some guys who they're not quite ready to get out there and talk about it. Isn't that? Would you agree?
I would say that the social media groups I am in and the small one that I run, are 90% women, and
Yeah.
they're very vocal. They're brilliant at really putting their hearts on the sleeves, and the men are in the background. But
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think, what do you think? Do you think it's an equal problem? I think men are as susceptible to.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. They just maybe don't want to face it or they're not as willing to talk about it. I mean, it's hard enough for any of us really. But yeah, I'll connect you with Tony definitely. So well done on the book. What did you set out to do with when you wrote the book? What was your intention?
I didn't set out to write a book, funnily enough. So this I think 3 years into my journey, and I was looking for my next thing. And
Yeah,
again, I was on the couch one night. I don't know what nonsense was on telly, and one of the things we're always encouraged to do is to journal.
yeah,
So I thought, I'll start journaling. I'll start from day one. I'll start from that day when that New Year's Eve back in 1984, and we'll keep writing. And next minute, I kind of moved into the middle part of my life where, the balance tipped and the dark shadows crept in. And then I thought, hang on a minute, this couple of people read it and said, this is entertaining, this is engaging. Why don't you say how you quit? Which led
yeah,
me to part three, which was kind of the recovery. And next minute, I've got a book in three parts of the kind of heady, hedonistic early days of alcohol, the middle misery, and then the joyful part three where, I stopped, how I did it, and how my life has changed as a result. And that took about 5 months once I suddenly realized I was actually writing a book. And I
yeah.
think I finished it last April.
So
And
can you imagine the version of you sort of 10 years ago ever writing a book?
no,
No.
nothing. I mean, again, it's things like running 10Ks, running half marathons, running my one and only metric marathon, the time
Wow.
just coming down, and all the things I'm doing that I'd just be in the pub. I'd just be boring on repeat,
Yeah.
same old, week in, week out, just wasting my life away. And now somehow I found a publisher, and it was published just at the very end of December, not quite in time for Christmas, but there we go.
Yeah. So if you had one message that you'd like people to take away from the book, what would it be?
If I can do it, anyone can. Anyone who is a stereotypical middle-aged drinker whose life has been on repeat, who just thinks that this is just the way life is. It's what all my friends do, so it must be okay. I was that person. I was 30 odd years boozing. I was pint after pint, red wine, the odd G&T, and one day that was over, and now I am a completely different person. I don't know who that person was, and it's taken me a while to find out who this new person is, but by God, he's a much better person.
Yeah, love it. Fantastic. You summed that up beautifully. You really did. Because for me, as I'm sure you know, if you've heard the podcast, I'm just all about sharing this message that life is better without.
Yeah.
That's it. When people do this thing of, oh, well, maybe I could just have one. Like, what the hell would you want to
No,
do? Why the hell would you want?
and the amount of people who think, just like I did after only 6 or 7 weeks, but the amount of people who stop for 3, 4, 5 years and think I'll just have one, and
Yeah.
next minute they're back. Why? It's not the taste.
No.
It's nonsense.
Well done, Julian. It's great to chat to you. The book is Booze. Just remind us of your website.
So website is www.boozeandback.com, and that's and the word, not the symbol.
Okay.
Yeah, available Amazon, UK, US, Waterstones in the UK, Barnes and Noble in the US. And yeah, I think it's a princely sum of £3.69 on Kindle and about 12 quid for the hard copy.
Sounds good. Thanks very much. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you, Janie.
Thank you, Julian. We'll make sure the link goes into the show notes. And don't forget, the awards are open for entries. If anyone's got a wellbeing brand or you're a wellbeing author or a practitioner, then come and check it out. Just a quick reminder, if you are interested in training to be a sober coach, even just to do the training for yourself, lots of people do that. They recognize that actually, certainly at the moment, the way my coach training is priced, it's a really affordable way of actually boosting your own well-being and absolutely laying all those foundations for your own holistic living. And then, of course, on top of that, you get absolutely everything you need to get rocking as a sober coach and to start your own business, whatever that means for you, whether you decide to work, online or in person, or doing workshops or retreats or whatever it is, and whether you decide to make it your full-time work, as some of my coaches have done, part-time, as lots of them have done, or even just every once in a while, or just supporting people at the water cooler, when they ask you. Someone in the Sober Club this week was saying she's really noticed that since she's been sober, people are coming up to her and just asking her, and she's just, by her sobriety, there's this amazing ripple effect, and other people are starting to give it a try, and it's just amazing, isn't it, when we can spread that awareness. So anyway, if it is something you're interested in, or if you know someone who is at the stage where they know they've quit for good, then come and check out our sober coach training. There's a free webinar on Tuesday, the 17th of March. It's at 7:30 in the evening, UK time. It's a really lovely kind of exploration of what it might mean to be a sober coach. So it'd be great to have you there. If you just go to thesoberclub.com and click on the link to register, you'll see it there under events. So thesoberclub.com/events. You'll see that link there alongside the poster for the Catherine Gray event that I'm doing on the 1st of April. And of course, if you want to join us in the Sober Club, you'd be so welcome. If you're day one and you're thinking about quitting the booze, or if you've been sober for absolute years, come and join us, because there's so much content there, so much well-being content. We've got a huge platform full of exclusive stuff. We've got William Porter sharing stuff around cravings. We've got nutritionists. We've got mindfulness. We've got meditation teachers. We've got Pilates in there. We've got fitness. We've got stuff about crystals. There's everything in that member portal. So come and join us. And of course, we have a really, really supportive community, totally non-judgmental, who, we cheerlead each other. There's also a course included, Get the Buzz Without the Booze. It's a pretty good deal, really. If you join us for a year, it's 100 quid off, which is pretty cool. So check it out, thesoberclub.com. But as I say every week, if that's not for you, that's okay. But do tell someone if you're doing this. If you are early days, reach out, tell someone. You can message me. Find me on social media at Janie Lee Grace, and just drop me a message and tell me that you're quitting. Gives you another layer of accountability. And as you heard me say earlier, please don't, buy into these BS articles that we need alcohol to have fun, and alcohol makes social occasions better, and on and on and on. No, it doesn't. Yes, you can still meet others. Yes, you can still be social. Keep the ritual, change the ingredients, have a lovely glass, have something non-toxic in your glass. Meet friends, socialize, have fun, be all of who you are. You can do all of that without a toxic, addictive substance. I am not being judgmental, because trust me, I was there for so many years. My only regret is I didn't do this sooner. And come on, Dr. Simon Feldhouse, catch up. As a doctor of longevity, seriously, catch up. I'd also love to pass him on to Dr. Anya Topiwala. If you hadn't heard that podcast episode, by the way, seek it out. My Alcohol-Free Life podcast recording with Dr. Anya Topiwala, who did a longevity study into alcohol, an actual longevity. The whole article was around aging and alcohol, and it was absolutely categorically clear that even one glass is harmful. So there you go. You can go and check it out scientifically. It's not just me talking this stuff. I will see you next time. You know where to reach out. You know where to find me. And, again, give yourself a massive hug if you're doing this. So worth it. Thank you for listening to the Alcohol-Free Life podcast, brought to you by the Sober Club. Please rate and review. And if you want support, accountability and inspiration, and you want to live your best life without the booze, check out thesoberclub.com.